Hey, welcome back everybody. Great to see you on this Tuesday. Hope we're all having a wonderful start to the week out there. And in today's video, we are going to discuss the probability of a white Christmas where you live. From West Coast to East Coast, we're going to break it all down for you, and I'm going to tell you who I think has the best shot at waking up on Christmas morning with some snow on the ground. Now, we will also briefly touch on some things currently ongoing out there, but luckily, we're going to be in a bit of a lull for the next couple of days, so we've got plenty of time in this video to dedicate towards that Christmas forecast, and I think a lot of you should find some use in that. Now, if you haven't already subscribed, definitely consider doing so. Like the video if you like it, and maybe share it as well with somebody that you think might be interested in this forecast as well. And also, comment, let me know where you're watching from, and let me know if you want a white Christmas. I'd also love to hear some of your favorite white Christmas stories out there from, throughout your life. Me personally, I've only had one white Christmas in my life, and that was in 2010. We had some snow move through during Christmas afternoon and evening, so kind of a white Christmas, but didn't really wake up to the snow on Christmas, so it's kind of a hybrid white Christmas if you ask me. With that said though, let's go ahead and jump into that forecast for you. Now, we are going to, again, briefly start with what's ongoing out there right now, and then I'll time out the next 48 hours for the eastern half of the country like I normally do for my regular viewers, and then we'll jump into that white Christmas forecast. So again, right now, we just had that big nor'easter move through the past couple of days, and my oh my, is it time to pick up the pieces. From the southeast through the northeast, we had insane amounts of flooding up and down the east coast, as well as very rough winds yesterday up into New England. So again, it's been a rough 48 hours, and then also we had those snow squalls yesterday that unfortunately caused some major pileups on some interstates up there in Michigan and kind of surrounding areas. So we are no stranger to active weather here in the United States the past week and really all of December. The good news though, again, like I said, we will get into a bit of a lull here over the next couple of days, and that will definitely be a welcome lull, I'm sure, from a lot of people. Now, again, satellite imagery was relatively quiet. If we look at current watches, warnings, advisories, and kind of the precipitation on the map, I'm going to go ahead and zoom into the East Coast really quick for you and just take a look at all of these green boxes from Florida all the way up the East Coast, from South Carolina, North Carolina, the Mid-Atlantic, and up into New England. All of these green boxes are flood advisories or flood warnings of some kind. And again, that nor'easter just dumped rain for a lot of folks. And I'll go ahead and mention this right now as well. If you didn't watch the video I posted yesterday, I actually documented some of that flooding in the low country of South Carolina this past Sunday. So definitely consider checking that out. It'll be pinned to the front of my channel. So you can just, click on the channel icon and it should be right there. Again, though, right now, the good news is all that we really have left are some festive snowflakes on the backside here from Pittsburgh, Cleveland, and up towards Montreal, Canada, even seeing some of that snow. And it's going to stay relatively dry for the next couple of days, but you'll notice back out west where we have a lot of precipitation moving in, that is going to be the start of our next storm system, and that one could even, again, affect that white Christmas forecast a little bit. All right, so let's go ahead and break down the next 48 hours for you. Again, this afternoon, some scattered snow showers possible in the northeast and up through New England. But other than that, just high pressure with very cold air kind of settling over the eastern half of the country. And that will continue to stick around now through tomorrow, through Wednesday afternoon, and even into likely Thursday as well. Before you'll notice, come Thursday, some precipitation tries to show back up on our map. And again, we'll talk about that here in just a moment. But again, the next 48 hours are really quite nice for a lot of folks, although a tad chilly, I will mention. All right, now taking a quick look at those temperatures over the same time period. This afternoon, again, it's going to be cold. A lot of us not getting above freezing through the northeast, down through the higher terrains of Appalachia and up into the Midwest, with some of that snowpack left over from yesterday. Again, a very cold day, and all points in between quite chilly as well. Now, as we go into our forecast tonight, you'll notice, let me move this ahead a little bit. Going into about the time we're waking up tomorrow, again, those below average temperatures and below freezing temperatures overspread again, with freezing temperatures getting all the way down near the Florida Panhandle tomorrow morning. So again, seasonably cool and even cold for a lot of folks. Some of these temperatures for highs today and lows tonight are going to be 10 to 15 degrees below what they normally would be this time of year. And then we warm back up again tomorrow afternoon, considerably warmer than I think this afternoon. before once again getting back down below freezing Wednesday night and into Thursday morning. But I think going into Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, you'll notice we really warm up compared to what we're seeing out there right now. Alrighty, well, with all that said, let's go ahead now and take a look at some White Christmas probabilities out there. And I think the most important way to kind of start this discussion is by knowing what is normal for Christmas. How often do we even see a White Christmas? And you'll notice for a lot of folks, it's really not that often. If you're kind of south of the Ohio River Valley here and outside of those higher terrains, it's less than 10% of the time we see a White Christmas. So the odds are already kind of stacked against us for a lot of folks here in the south. Now, you'll notice as you get north of there, we've kind of got bands of areas that those chances go up, kind of in this area in between these two red lines. It gets closer to that 20 to 30% chance. And then as you get north of there, kind of between that top red line and that blue line, those are the folks that really are most likely to normally see a White Christmas. Then, of course, also those higher elevations out west, really, a lot of the times, it'd be uncommon not to see a White Christmas. So again, I think that's important to kind of look at here as we, look into the forecast and the probabilities, is how often do we even normally see a White Christmas in the first place? Now, if we take a look at current snow depth out there, and again, this is important because we're basically in Christmas week now. We've only got, less than a week till Christmas Day itself. So it's good to look at who has snow on the ground already and what are the odds of that snow sticking around now through Christmas morning. And again, after yesterday's kind of area of snow that fell, we do have some snowpack out there in Michigan, Ohio, sections of Indiana, Kentucky, even parts of eastern Tennessee, and the higher elevations of North Carolina, Virginia, West Virginia, and up through Pennsylvania also have some of that snow on the ground. Now, this is going to be important because as we look at temperatures between now through Christmas, if they stay quite cool, then maybe that could stay around on the ground. But if we get a big warm up, that's also going to kind of play into that potential forecast. Now, one place you'll notice that has plenty of snowpack is out here into the Mountain West. A lot of folks in those higher terrains of Colorado, New Mexico, where we just had a snowstorm earlier last week, and then up through Idaho, Wyoming, Utah, Montana, and then up through the Cascades and even down through the Sierra Nevadas, plenty of snow on the ground for you folks. And again, as we looked at, the probabilities of a White Christmas out there are generally much higher anyway, so you would kind of expect to see that. Okay. So as we continue to dive into this forecast, the first map we're going to look at is our 500 millibar height anomaly map. And I love showing this map. It does a great job at showing the general idea of what we're seeing out there. So just to kind of quickly recap this map, if you're kind of new to the channel or maybe you're not quite familiar with it, anytime we see these kind of red lines that are doing this or kind of kinking and buckling upwards, that we call ridging in the atmosphere. And what that often leads to is much warmer air and wind coming out of the south. On the other hand, whenever we see these blue lines kind of doing the opposite or kinking downwards, that is what we generally call troughing, and that's normally a sign of cooler air moving southward. So again, the way Earth works is the weather, all it is a balance of cold air from the poles and warm air from the equator. And that's what these troughs and ridges are. And they, again, really help us forecast what general kind of weather pattern is in store. So this is actually looking at what we saw yesterday evening. And again, it's pretty easy to see here. We had that cold air moving through the east, and we've had above average temperatures back out into the plains in the west. So obviously the map's correlating pretty well there. Now, as we move through this week, you'll notice going into this is Thursday afternoon here. I'm going to stop it here. You'll notice that big ridge that is currently out west begins to move eastbound. And as that occurs, we know that that is a sign of warmer air trying to surge northward. And unfortunately, if you're a fan of wintry weather, that sure enough is going to happen later this week. We're going to have very warm, above average temperatures slowly working out of the plains and into the east coast going towards this weekend. So as we looked at with the current snow cover map, unfortunately, that's going to get pretty well obliterated here in the eastern half of the country between now and Christmas. So we're going to have to try to find a different way to get some snow on the ground between now and then. Now, as I move this further ahead into time, you'll notice we have a bit of a storm system or some troughing here in blue showing up on our map right here into Southern California. This is going to work into the California coastline later this week, and I'll even back this up a little. Oops, sorry, not quite that much. You'll notice this comes out of the Pacific and eventually there into Southern California. And by the time we're getting into Saturday afternoon, this is December 23rd here, you'll notice still dealing with this very strong ridging out in the east. But here comes some of that troughing back out into the west, indicating a punch of maybe some cooler air, but more importantly, a storm system. And as we move this further ahead into Christmas Eve here, you'll notice here comes that area of blue out of the desert southwest and tries working into the plains, bringing with it precipitation. Now again, this is going into Christmas Eve evening and into Christmas Day, still dealing with big time ridging in the east, so still no sign of a storm system here for our Christmas. And that is going to be very important to the forecast here. Now, what does all this mean in terms of temperatures? Obviously, it's good to have the precipitation there with a storm system, but is it going to be cool enough to produce snow? Well, again, right now we are dealing with quite below average temperatures in the east, thanks to that pocket of cold air that moved through last night and through the day yesterday. As we move this ahead, though, that blue hangs around through Wednesday afternoon, but by the time we're getting into Thursday afternoon, you'll notice this big block of red, or these above average temperatures back out into the western half of the continent, slowly begin to work eastbound towards the east coast. And by the time we're getting into Friday afternoon here, that red continues to work eastbound past the Mississippi River towards the Appalachian chain. And going into our Saturday afternoon and even into our Christmas Eve afternoon, well above average temperatures now, anywhere from the Rockies all the way up and down the East Coast, from Canada all the way down to Florida and even into Mexico. So very warm air on the horizon between kind of later this week and into Christmas Eve and even Christmas Day itself here. So unfortunately, that doesn't bode very well for the chances of a white Christmas for many folks. Now, what I will mention is if you're watching out here kind of into the Rockies and maybe into sections of Nebraska, Kansas, Texas, we are getting some blue showing up on this map. And this is, again, correlating with that troughing we just looked at. Likely to have a storm system somewhere over this region that is trying to bring in some cold air on the backside. That could bode well for white Christmas chances back out into the Rockies and even sections of the Great Plains. So let's take a look at this here in another way. Let's time this out and look at this storm system. Again, all quiet now through about that Friday, Saturday time frame, and here it comes. And here's that low pressure that we were looking at coming in towards the California coastline and towards the Rockies, going from this Friday into this Saturday. And you'll notice come overnight Friday and Saturday, we're already getting some snow to break out in the higher elevations of Arizona and even into New Mexico, while unfortunately, thanks to that ridging, we're getting very warm Gulf air to surge northward in the east, and that could even lead to some showers from Friday through Saturday. Now, moving this further ahead into time, into kind of Saturday afternoon here, you'll notice we've got a couple pieces of energy. Here's that low pressure, but also this punch of cold air trying to work through the Rockies, bringing some snow showers just before Christmas here through Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, and even Utah. And then eventually these two kind of link up going into Christmas Eve. And you'll notice Christmas Eve morning here, we could have a lot of snow showers here in the Rockies and even into sections of Nebraska, Colorado, outside of those higher elevations. Now, unfortunately, again, if you're watching in the east, we're still on the warm side of this storm system. Very strong winds likely coming out of the Gulf, bringing that warm air advection northward. And unfortunately, there's just no sign of cold air anywhere outside of the Rockies here. Now, as I move this further ahead into time through Christmas Eve afternoon, again, we've got almost an all-out winter storm ongoing here through sections of the plains and into the Rockies, while on the other hand, we've got rain and even potentially thunderstorms down towards the Gulf of Mexico during Christmas Eve afternoon. Now, moving this into the overnight of Christmas Eve and into Christmas morning here, you'll notice, again, still very strong southerly flow here, warm weather in the east, and even potentially rainy weather trying to work in out of the Gulf. And that, again, could even lead to some thunderstorms. So not quite what you want to see if you're a winter weather fan here in the east. But if you're out here into the plains and into the Rockies, right now your chances of seeing some snow out of this storm system right before and even during Christmas are looking like an all right bet. And as we move this into Christmas Day afternoon, you'll notice the storm system still spinning away over the plains could continue to bring some wintry weather there on the backside, while unfortunately still dealing with rainy weather up and down the east from really east of the Mississippi River, that warm weather and even rainy weather trying to work on in. And that was just one model. That was the GFS model. If we take a look at the European model moving into the same time frame, again, here comes that storm system out of California into the Four Corners region going into this coming weekend. And sure enough, here's that snow as well as that storm system cranks up into the Great Plains. This is Christmas Eve afternoon. Again, a bit of a snowstorm ongoing for some folks, while still seeing that very warm air coming out of the Gulf, leading to above average temperatures and some rainfall as well in the east. And again, both models agree pretty well there now through Christmas Day. All right, now taking a look at some of these temperatures now through about this is Christmas Eve day, I should say. And you'll notice, again, a lot of warm air here coming out of the Gulf. Look at these very warm temperatures surging northward up the Mississippi River Valley through Texas, Louisiana, and even into Arkansas, up the Mississippi River, and even areas east through the Appalachia chain. So again, if you're a winter weather fan, high temperatures Christmas Eve likely above freezing for everyone east of the Rocky Mountains here, and specifically east of the Mississippi. Now, as we move this into Christmas Day itself, again, more of the same. You'll notice, though, we are going to get a bit of a boundary here, as we do have that low pressure spinning away, cold air getting sucked in on the backside, but then that warm air, again, getting pulled northward. So a pretty impressive clashing of air masses here likely during the Christmas time frame. And again, that's going to lead to quite below average chances of a white Christmas through the East Coast, even likely near 0% chance of any kind of wintry weather east of the Mississippi. Now, I do have good news for you, though. I know Christmas, isn't looking very great here if you're a winter weather fan, but going after Christmas, there are some signs that we could get a bit of a change up in the atmosphere. And we'll take a look at that here in just a moment. Quickly before we get there, though, let's look at our blend of models and look at the snowfall probabilities, or not probabilities, but how much snow is expected now between Christmas evening. And again, you'll notice this kind of summarizes it all very well. Absolutely nothing here in the east. Basically zilch everywhere from Florida over to Texas, north up through even Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, and even into the northeast. Now, I can't rule out maybe some kind of snow showers potentially up here into the northeast between now and then, especially in those higher elevations. But still, the pattern here is just not conducive for winter weather in the east now through early next week. But again, if you're watching out west, if you're in these higher terrains of the Rockies from Sierra Nevadas up towards the Cascades, through Salt Lake City area, Nevada, Utah, Arizona, even down into New Mexico, up through Colorado and Wyoming, your chances of a white Christmas looking very good this year, much like it normally does. And again, even outside of the mountains into the northern Great Plains, could be looking at some wintry weather Christmas Eve through Christmas Day. And we'll definitely watch those trends now between then. Alrighty, so again, I mentioned now through Christmas, but I think after Christmas, going towards the new year, us winter weather fans here in the East could potentially be in for a little bit of a better pattern. Now, again, we're going to go back to our height anomaly map that shows that troughing and ridging. And again, this is Christmas Eve afternoon. Here's that ridging out in the east. You'll notice pretty easy to see. And again, that troughing in the Rockies that could be bringing some of that snow. Now, as I move this further ahead in time, you'll notice that troughing or that blue on the map tries to move further off to the east, and we could see a pretty far south storm track here with that. That could be a bit of a southern slider, as we like to call them, just meaning it kind of forms out here into the lower Four Corners and then just rides the Gulf of Mexico. Now, this is definitely a conducive track for winter weather. It's got the perfect amount of precipitation in the right place. The question is, though, are we going to have any cold air to help supply it out of Canada? And you'll notice, unfortunately, still a lot of red showing up on the map to the north. Now, that's not to say that we can't get snow with that red further north. In fact, I've seen plenty of winter weather events where temperatures are just marginal enough down here in the east and to the south that we could get a big snowstorm at 32, 33 degrees. Now, I don't think that's very likely with this first storm system going into the days after Christmas. I think this will be, though, a bit of a tone setter and likely change the pattern up after that moves through. We could see a little bit of a better connection of that cold air from Canada downward. And you'll notice through the end of the year and even the start of the new year, this very active southern storm track continues, and that could be quite conducive for some winter weather somewhere here in the east, from maybe the southeast through the northeast, the Ohio River Valley, and really all points in between could get some kind of wintry storm there to end out the year or even start the new year. And I imagine this pattern will likely only get better going into the first couple weeks of January. So that's definitely some good news here that we are going to hope for. Another kind of part of that we'll notice, again, are those average temperatures. And for Christmas Day and Christmas Eve itself, again, as we looked at, very above average temperatures up and down the East Coast, warmer than you'd probably like to see if you like snow. But after that, with that southern storm track kind of embedding itself, below average temperatures look to take over to kind of end out the year here through much of the eastern half of the country, from Texas through the southeast up through the Ohio River Valley and even into the northeast, hoping we can get some of that colder weather to maybe even link up with some precipitation. And that's definitely something we'll hope for. And another thing I'll show you here, just kind of end out the video before I let you go, is our ensemble's chances of seeing at least an inch of snow during specific time periods. And I'll move this right into Christmas Eve here. And you'll notice the best chances of seeing some snow on Christmas Eve are going to be out here into the Rockies. Very high chance of seeing at least an inch of snow in those higher terrains, again, from really Idaho all the way down to New Mexico. And as we move this into Christmas Day, again, those chances kind of increasing outside of the Rockies from the northern Great Plains down into even the lower terrains of Colorado there, as that storm system we talked about kind of moves on through. And unfortunately, again, Christmas Day, a whole lot of nothing in the snow department here east of the Mississippi. Now, briefly moving this ahead, again, as we talked about that potential for a storm kind of to round out the year, you'll notice these chances of snowfall do definitely increase going towards the end of the year, and also even into the start of the new year. Not, off the chart numbers here, but definitely an increase from what we're going to see now through Christmas. And I do definitely think that the chances of snow should increase in that very last couple days of December and into the start of the new year, and even going further into January. I imagine we'll have some pretty big snowstorms to track here through much of the East Coast, and potentially even into February. The winter, again, is still very young. I know a lot of folks have been maybe a little let down by December so far. We've had plenty of big storms, just not much snow with them. I definitely think that will change, though, as we go further into the winter. And we haven't even hit, technically, the winter solstice yet. We're only in meteorological winter right now. So plenty of time to kind of iron things out here and get plenty of snow for us in the east. Alrighty, well, with that said, again, I hope you enjoyed the video. I know it might not be the information you necessarily wanted to hear, but it's what we're looking at right now. And if you're kind of a bit of a heat miser out there, maybe you will enjoy this forecast. Again, with that said, though, I hope you have a great rest of your Tuesday out there, and I'll see you all next time.